Hey guys, this is Kevin, and I decided to do another video this morning for the Expat Philippines series. And these are videos for those who are thinking about becoming an expat or a missionary in the Philippines. What I'm going to talk about today actually applies to any place that you're going to live, if you're going to be an expat or missionary anywhere. And today's topic is becoming a third culture man or woman, as the case may be, becoming a third culture man. And this is a term I actually borrowed from when I was in training to be a missionary. They talked about they gave parents advice for the children. MKs, missionary kids is what they called them. But I think pretty sure the same thing would apply to any expat. And they describe missionary children as third culture kids because they were born maybe in the U.S., or even if they are born overseas, their parents, being American, have the American culture, and then they're born in whatever the host culture is, or they live in the host culture, I mean, and they're something in between. They're third culture. And something similar, I think, really happens to expats or missionaries when you live in another place for an extended period of time. I remember the the first time that I came back here to the U.S. after living in the Philippines for 1.5 years straight. And when I came back here, when you move somewhere else, you describe that as culture shock, the stresses of living in a foreign culture. But then sometimes once you adapt and you adapt to that host country, and then you come back to your own country, you have what's called reverse culture shock, meaning you've gotten so used to living in the other country that home doesn't exactly feel like home anymore. It can stress you out to be back in the place where you live. And the first time that I came back here, I, I had some reverse culture shock. And I don't mean that it was negative or difficult for me to adapt to visiting home. It just felt kind of alien for me to be back here in the U.S. After being somewhere else for so long. When my wife and I moved here, we had some of that too. It was some, or for me, it was her culture shock, me reverse culture shock, getting used to being here in the USA. Now, we have done well. We haven't had any major problems. My wife lived in Macau before we met, so she knows what it's like to adapt to a different culture and a different environment. So we're doing fine, but we did experience some adjustments coming back here. And so the point I'm making is when you live somewhere else, the Philippines or anywhere else, and you adapt to life there, maybe you learn the language, you learn the way they do things, and you, especially if you grow to love that place where you're living, what happens is you kind of consider it your home, but then at the same time, it's not your home either. When I was in the Philippines, I think I adapted fairly well. Some of my friends even called me Siopao, which, if you're not familiar with that, that is a bread snack in the Philippines. That it's kind of a big roll type thing that's white, but then if you bite into it on the inside, it's brown, has pork or something like that on the inside. Well, they would joke and call me that because I'm white on the outside, but I had adapted to the culture so much that it was like I was brown on the inside. So I took that as a great compliment, and I loved it when people said that about me. Yet at the same time, there were still things that I did that were very un-Filipino. For example, I lived in much of my time in the Philippines before I married. I lived in an apartment by myself. Filipinos typically do not do that. So I had adapted and I had become as Filipino as someone who grew up in the States could become, yet at the same time, there were aspects of me and my personality that were very much not Filipino. So I was kind of something in between. And what happens is if you become a third culture person, you adapt to both places. And you can readapt to moving back home to the country where you grew up. Yet at the same time, you are no longer 100% home anywhere you go anymore. So you're home everywhere, and at the same time, you're at home nowhere. It's kind of a weird feeling. But I thought I would just prepare you for that. And it's not something that you're going to stay up at night thinking about. And for me, it's not even something that is, to me, it's something that has enhanced my life because I think I have a broader perspective on just people. But it's just something to be aware of. Living somewhere else for a long period of time changes you, and it changes you in deep and profound ways that you're not aware of until maybe you move again or move to a different culture or move back home. So, just keep that in mind. And I think if you keep that in mind, it's something that you can be aware of and be prepared for. So, anyway, I hope this video has helped. And if you want to ask a question or want some information from me about living in the Philippines or moving there, feel free to leave a comment below this video.